Magandang gabi Philippines. Welcome to Japanese Shoe Channel. Today, I'm going to react to Philippines versus Indonesia, which is the best travel destination in 2022. I never been to Indonesia, so what is the difference between Philippines and Indonesia? I can observe watching this. I can observe watching this video. Okay, before watching the video, please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to not push the notification bell to not to miss my future videos. If you like the video, please share it to your friends and family members. Thank you very much. Salamat po. Let's go. So this
Indonesia
is
or
Philippines.
Philippines. In the last few years of traveling, these have been really two of my favorite countries, and today I want to share with you a few impressions from the last few trips. My favorite places, beaches, cities, experiences, but also I want to talk about which one I would prefer to live in, which one I think has the upper hand as a travel destination. Let's talk about it.
You said which ones you live in?
In today's video, I want to talk to you about two of my favorite countries that I've visited. While there is a lot of similarities, over the past few months I've been in Indonesia, a lot of times I was like, wow, that really reminds me of my time in Philippines. There's also some differences. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about where maybe I would prefer to travel to, where maybe I could see myself staying a little bit longer. And today's video is brought to you by Cambly. Later on in this video, we're going to talk about how I personally learned English, and this is where Cambly comes in. A few months ago, I did a video comparing the city of Jakarta and Manila because I saw a few key similarities and I felt that both places are underrated. A lot of people visit Bangkok, a lot of people visit Kuala Lumpur, but you don't hear too many people like going like, oh yeah, I really want to go to Manila or Jakarta, so you can check that video out below. And to get into that, both countries are very densely populated. Like Indonesia being the fourth largest country in terms of population, I believe
Very
around
dense
280 million
population.
people. Philippines is
Especially in
approaching
Manila.
110 million people, and they're both island nations. So Philippines, I think it's over 7,000 islands. Like with both countries, it seems like they're discovering new pieces of land every other month or year. So, but still, only a few areas are very densely populated. So in Indonesia, I believe it's over 17,000 but still more than half of the population of Indonesia lives on the island of Java. So before we're going to talk about the differences of the two countries, I want to share some of my favorite places just to give you a visual idea. To start off with the Philippines,
Your
probably my
favorite
favorite
places,
island
okay.
was Palawan.
Palawan.
Blue beaches, white sands. I absolutely loved it. Now maybe I'm going to pull up a little bit also of older footage. I visited
Understandable.
once in
Blue
2018,
blue
then in
waters,
the late
white
19,
sand
early
beach.
2020. And just the nature around there. You also have like some places that are a bit more developed, like El Nido. It's kind of like a proper little town, has some cafes, also like some expats. So you have some international cafes. There's actually this one Ukrainian cafe I'm thinking of right now. Then there's the island of Coron, and just the scenery there is absolutely mind-blowing. Another island that I liked a lot was the island of Siargao. Some people call it,
Siargao.
like, compared the vibe a little bit also to Bali. In some way I could see that, kind of like a smaller Bali. And this place for me, I really associate with coconut trees. So you have these coconut roads. It's just, they're so aesthetic,
So
so
this is in
symmetrical, as if
Siargao.
somebody kind of like did it on purpose, but most of the roads, that's just the way they are. So absolutely beautiful. And the third place, in terms of a more developed tourist destination, probably would be the island of Boracay. A lot of tourists, a lot of tourists from
Boracay.
Asia, but for that matter of fact, also from all over the world. So Boracay is probably one of the most developed tourist and vacation destinations in the Philippines. So to talk about Indonesia, obviously the most popular place is the island of Bali, just because of people coming in from all over the world, especially for staying longer. It has
Bali.
a lot of convenience while still having a certain adventure factor. You can venture out into the jungle, into the Ubud area, see the monkeys, see the volcanoes. And
Right.
the island next to Nusa Penida. In terms of nature and blue beaches, that is probably the closest that came to the Philippines for me. Huge cliffs, absolutely loved it. And again, for all of the places, there's also full videos here on the channel, so you're welcome to check them out. And another place that made Indonesia very special are its volcanoes. As far as I know, Philippines also has volcanoes, but Indonesia is the most volcanic country in the world. So Java itself has multiple active volcanoes, and the one that I visited was Mount Bromo. The view was like out of this world, and this is kind of like what I associate with Indonesia. So let's talk a little bit about the differences, because I think the cultural differences, the language, that's what's gonna make your experience very different. In Indonesia, they have Bahasa Indonesia, so it's the local language. If you're in a bigger city, some people are gonna speak English, but generally not too many. In the Philippines, on the other side, most people, not everyone, but many people, especially in the bigger cities, speak pretty good English. And if you're on the ground, that's what in the Philippines made it a little bit easier to get around and to kind of like really connect with the people on the ground, being able to speak the local language. And on that note, a lot of people ask me, hey, Danny, how did you actually learn English? What does it come down to? Is there a trick? Is English? On the one side, you have Philippines with colonial history of the Spanish, and shortly after that, quite recently, actually, Americans were there for a while. And in Indonesia, it was the Dutch. So if you're going to travel through Indonesia, you're going to see a lot of signs of that. You're going to see Dutch government buildings. You're going to see some old Dutch houses. And I found that to be very interesting, especially if you go through the island of Java. On the other hand, in the Philippines, you're going to have a lot of Spanish vibes. That's what made Philippines really special to me. The whole region, this very unique background of the Spanish being there for quite a while. So you feel the culture in the food, in the old churches that you sometimes see randomly on like very like small islands, just like a real proper like Spanish church from 200 years ago. And that's also with the food. So the food in Indonesia is very different from the food in the Philippines. Philippines, much more, I would say, barbecue, grilled fish, lechon, so it's kind of like fried pork. In Indonesia, you're gonna have a bit more of Asian food, a lot of soups. You have the bakso, you have the mie ayam, noodle soups. I like both. Both, I would say, not my favorite in the world. I'm right now sitting in Thailand. I have to say, for me personally, I have to give the food prize to Thailand. While in both places, I always enjoy to kind of try a little bit the local cuisine. In the Philippines, just by the fact that you can easier communicate with the local people, it makes the whole experience a little bit easier to connect. And also, to me personally, traveling through the Philippines felt a little bit more adventurous. I would say, I was really thinking about why that is. And that's just my feeling, like most things in this video, obviously. But due to the fact that, in my perception, Indonesia has a very strong domestic tourism. So especially the island of Java, a lot of Javanese people travel all over Indonesia, all over the island of Java, especially Bali.
I think.
So most places you're going to go to, there's going to be a lot of tourists, even if they're domestic, even if it's tourism from other Asian countries. And the tourism in Philippines is also obviously very high. But still, some of the islands I traveled to in the Philippines, they were kind of like one of the major like spots, like maybe the island of Siquijor, or maybe even the island of Bohol. But it has one small tourist area, and then if you drive out into the island, you don't see like any tourists for like weeks sometimes, and it's absolutely crazy. Like there's just local people. And also, sometimes the places felt a little bit less densely populated. So sometimes you just have absolutely the whole place to yourself. There's no cars driving by. So in Indonesia, I have been on the island of Java, Lombok, Bali, and most of the time there's going to be some other people around, and also a lot of domestic tourism as well. So with that, it felt maybe a little bit less adventurous, but then again, it depends where you go to. Indonesia is one of the largest countries in the world, so some of the islands, I'm sure you're gonna get all the adventure factor you would want it to, but that was kind of like my personal experience a little bit from, let's say, the more developed places of Indonesia. And if we're speaking also about development, that's kind of like the thing. When it comes to things like internet connection, all over Java, most populated island of Indonesia, most parts of Bali, you have great internet connection. Sometimes it may not be like flawless, but if you're gonna find your place, you're gonna be able to do everything you want.
Internet is
upload,
good in
download
Indonesia. I didn't know that.
very easily. In the Philippines, you really have to pay attention to where you are, what island you're
Yes,
on.
right.
Sometimes you might not even have any connection. Like I stayed on this one island in the Philippines,
I have
didn't even have
experienced
phone
many
connection on
times.
my phone. That again adds to kind of like the adventure story I told you earlier about. I think I made a video kind of like by myself on an island in the
that
Philippines.
way,
I actually
adventure,
was
not
with the tour there.
developed.
Then the tour
I
went to like
see.
pick up a new guest, and I was like, can I stay on the island by myself? And I don't know, maybe there was like 10 other people, kind of like a local, like really small island. local people living there. So yeah, that was definitely an adventure. And with that, that kind of like makes me think about if I would have to choose where I would want it to stay a long term. For me, it would be much more a place like Bali. Also because there's a large international community, so there's people from all over the world coming there, staying there, maybe working online from there. While of course that is in the Philippines as well, there is no one place with a lot of people in a very developed, let's say, digital nomad community or something like that. So Indonesia definitely has the upper hand for me on that. But on the other side, Philippines makes for me a little bit more of an attractive travel destination. So if I right now would have to pick up and be like, hey, I can choose where would I want to travel just for a week or 2 weeks trip, probably it would be the Philippines for me. If the question would be, hey,
Probably would
where
be
would you
the
prefer to
Philippines.
stay for a few months? For me, it would be a place like Bali or maybe a city like Bandung. And I covered all of these places also in the top 10 video about Indonesia that is coming out probably shortly after this video. Let's talk a little bit about similarities and differences. So, in terms of nature, you're definitely going to find that both countries offer these blue beaches with white sands. Talking about Bali, if you want to find that, it's mostly in Uluwatu. A lot of people come to Bali actually expecting like blue water paradise and like, you know, these like paradise screensavers you have on your computer. But actually, mostly Bali is kind of like brown beaches with dark sands. In Uluwatu, you can get a little bit more blue waters. Very nice. But if you go to Nusa Penida, you can definitely get that. But still, I have to say, while I'm sure Indonesia has beaches like that, Philippines just has these blue, like unbelievably blue as waters absolutely everywhere. Sometimes you're in a boat, sometimes you're on a beach. You look at it and you cannot believe that it's real. Again, like for example, right now I'm sitting in Thailand, and Thailand has that too, but it's not every beach. Like Philippines, I have been to 4 different regions of the country, to maybe like, I don't know, like 50 different beaches, and almost all of them have this insane blue water. So this is probably where Philippines has a little bit of an overhand, while I'm sure Indonesia has these places. I would say another point that is also definitely worth talking about is transportation. In both places, if you want to travel throughout the country, it will be a bit tricky. As said, it's island nation, so sometimes you have to just fly for an hour or two just to get to another region of islands. Then you maybe have to take boats. In Indonesia, if you're going to be on the island of Java, actually there it's going to be fairly easy because they have a train system throughout the whole island of Java. And then you can take a ferry, for example, to Bali. In the Philippines, mostly you will have to fly from one major island region into another one and then maybe take a boat.
Yeah.
So I would say in the Philippines, it's a little bit harder to travel if you are on a larger island, like for example the Cebu area. There's a lot of cool different places to go to, so then you can take a bus throughout the whole island. But if you want to go to a different region, usually you're not going to get around to flying, because otherwise you would have to take like whatever 3 boats, 5 buses, whatever it may be. Maybe it could be fun, but that's just kind of like the reality of things, which again adds a little bit to the adventure travel factor if you would want it to. And so to wrap it up, absolutely 2 of my favorite travel destinations, especially when it comes to nature, tropical travel. And yeah, if you have been to any of the 2, if you have been to both, I would be really curious to hear your thoughts. Which one did you maybe prefer over the other? Why? Where do you see the similarities or differences? Always
like
very curious to hear
Philippines.
from
I like
you.
Philippines
And
as
if
well.
there's, let's say, a different country, let's say Indonesia and Thailand, or any of the countries you've seen me recently travel to for this year, there's a lot of things planned. So if you would like to see another kind of like, let's say, mashup, put the 2 destinations next to each other, I might do it. These videos always do very well. There's always a certain controversy going on in the comments that's probably definitely benefiting to it. So if you want to contribute, you're welcome to do it. And yeah, guys, other than that, I'm coming to you right now from Thailand. It's kicking off the year of 2022. And if you're interested into the topic of perpetual travel, living in different countries,
Okay, I
and generally what
understand.
I am up to, you're also welcome.
Okay, I understand. So he chose Philippines, and yeah, I never went to Indonesia, so I don't know how good Indonesia is. So I want to check that soon. But I still love Philippines. Okay, today's video is it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, hit notification bell to not to miss my future videos. If you like the video, please share it to your friends and family members. And please comments below, whatever you want. Thanks for watching. See you again. Bye bye.